Oh, certainly. And this concerns a case of Justice Crack. That's what a lot of people know him as on social media. Over the past few months, he's been doing exposés on the state of Nigerian soldiers, doing human angle stories for social media. But it looks like he got too close to the fire this time because for days now he's been missing, and I use that word advisedly. He's been missing off the radar, not until we got a statement that came from the Nigerian military, in fact the Nigerian army, yesterday, May the 2nd, or 2 days ago I should say, saying that, well, they're trying to clarify the arrest of Justice Mark Chidebere, whom we know as Justice Crack. There's a lot of explainer there, but really, for a lot of people, it still doesn't justify the fact that he was missing, just taken away without informing his family. And we're joined on the program by someone who has been pushing for the release of Justice Crack, Peter Aka, whom a lot of people know as Randy Peters. Well, he describes himself as an advocate for a new Nigeria. Joins us live from Abuja studio. Good morning, Mr. Aka. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Mr. Kayode. It's a pleasure being with you this morning.
You know, I know there's a lot of politics going on here, but we must talk about this. Then we can maybe build up to the political bit of it. I want you to speak to us. You've been at the forefront of the demand for the release of Justice Crack. You have put out letters literally everywhere at this point. So tell us what you know, because looking at that statement from the Acting Director, Army Public Relations, Colonel Apollonia Anele, the statement says Justice was picked by the Nigerian Army alongside the soldiers for investigation. They say he'd been chatting with some soldiers. While the soldiers remain in custody, Justice has been handed over to relevant civil authorities for further investigation and possible prosecution. What's your response to that?
Mr. Kayode, I think the current state of this country is frightening. And if the military, as a very respected institution, can also descend to this level of conduct, I think it should worry every person what exactly needs to be done to reset the reformation of institutions in Nigeria. So on Tuesday, the 28th of April, I got a call, a distress call in the evening from the wife of Justice Mark Chidebere. He's on social media as Justice Crack, that she hadn't heard from her husband since about since morning when he dropped her off. And then we began the search and all of that. And by Wednesday morning, we were at the FCT command, where we met with the Commissioner of Police of the FCT. And he asked us what was our suspicion. We told him we had done our private tracking and the police did their own. And every location indicated clearly the Nigerian Army Officers' Wives Association shopping complex in Asokoro. Then by Wednesday, his devices had been turned off and turned on, and then we're able to get another location still around the military facility, the Army War College, the State House Clinic. And our suspicions were confirmed that the military had taken him due to the videos he had, made. And now, taking the statement of the military, it even gives you more concern than explain the situation. What does the army mean by he was picked up? What sort of arrest is done in that kind of abductive manner, where an institution that could just legally use civil authority to invite a person, carry out your investigations, you can get a warrant if you want to search his properties, he's a law-abiding citizen, he's not a terrorist, nothing has been proven on him until it is found guilty, that the army will conduct this kind of raid. And then for 5 days, nobody knew his whereabouts until we began to raise a lot of questions, calling out the CIC, and everything we kept saying turned out to be so. His vehicle was parked there. We had to find a way of getting at least something to show an evidence that truly he was in their custody. And then finally, we now heard that he had been moved to civil authority, and the letter did not still state which was the civil authority. So we kept mounting the pressure until yesterday evening. Somehow at evening of a Sunday, we now got a call after the plan for the nationwide protest and all of that, that I should come to the DSS with a lawyer. And then I went there and I met Justice, and he began to tell me how he was taken into the military, blindfolded and handcuffed, kept under the sun during the day, kept in a cold room at night, and after some days of that treatment, one night he was hurriedly moved to the DSS facility. This is the whole thing we know about the case with Justice, and that is why today we continue to push. We are going out to call for his unconditional release. This cannot be the way that a country should go. Speaking up for military welfare should not be a death sentence or a detention approach or abduction by the military. We should do things within the ambits of the law as a people. If people commit offense, please let us follow the rule of law.
So he was kept in the sun during the day, kept in a cold room at night. This is reminiscent of what we saw play out during the military regime, may even be worse at this point. And we're under a democracy. We've been at this for over 20 years. And for this to be happening right now, that is terrible. That is unheard of under a democracy. I'm looking at the last video that he did where he said, I am very scared for Nigerians right now. That's on Instagram, saying even the law enforcement agencies have become a threat to the people they are supposed to protect. Incidentally, he's experiencing that right now. So I want you to speak to us about what played out at the DSS. So are they charging him to court? What are they charging him for? Because as you said, all he's been fighting for is for the welfare of the military. Ironically, that same military picked him up and tortured him in such manner.
Mr. Kayode, the past few days have left me really wondering. I am a very hopeful Nigerian citizen. In everything that I do, I try to build confidence in Nigerians to know that this country will work. But constantly, Nigeria gives you reason to believe that persons who give up on this country may just be making the right decision, but we cannot all be silenced. It was so concerning to me to hear from Justice that at night, even when the cuffs are taken from his hands, his legs are cuffed, he still has the injuries on his ankles and on his wrist. He has developed a cold and is not able to speak clearly because of the treatment in the military. And then the question is, for what offense? In a country where Nigerian government is spending taxpayer money to rehabilitate terrorists, a person is being questioned and detained for speaking up for military welfare. And as we are talking, there are reports that an officer has been dismissed for that complaint. Are military laws made for the officers, or are the officers made for the laws? Why is it always a reaction? There could be a simple response. If you know as a military that you are doing better, put out the information and debunk it. Say, no, this is wrong, this is what we are doing, and it takes away or answers that question. So when we got to the DSS, they have not told us whatever the allegations. We met with the director of investigation. They said they have done their investigation, took his statements which were clear on what he does. He said he's a national social crusader. He speaks up on issues that affect Nigerians, including the military, who he believes are Nigerians and have a right for better treatment, because a well taken care of military is a well protected nation, and nobody should turn a blind eye when our servicemen are seen not to be taken care of. They told us that they will call the lawyers and we will get a call by today. They have not indicated clearly that they are charging him to court. We are hoping that the DSS will do the right thing, because they have proven to even be more level-headed. At least he has stated clearly that the kind of treatment he's getting in the DSS is way better compared to what he got from the military, and that they seem to be more cooperative. They have taken his gadgets, they have done all the assessment, they have done a recorded interrogation of him. We are hoping and calling on the DSS to release him immediately, unconditionally, and we will not cease fire. We will be out on the streets today. Justice Mark Chidebere must be released, and the damages that were done to him by the military must be repaid, because every step legally that we must take, we will take it, so that the military does not feel or have the right to do this kind of thing next time. If not, this precedence will be set, and no civilian or no person will be able to speak up in this country.
I think it's flat out wrong for torture under any guise. He's not a terrorist to the best of our knowledge, except they have that information. So he may be filing against the military in terms of his fundamental human right. But it's so disturbing to hear what he has to go through for speaking up, except there's something beyond that. I'm going to read what the military says. But before I read out what the military says, is said this. When you met him, can you describe to us his state of health?
Yes. He's looking physically okay. He's in good spirit. You know, I mean, you have the opportunity to access him physically. The only injuries that are also healing are the injuries to his wrist and his ankles. That obviously pointed to the fact of the handcuffs and the leg cuffs, and then, you know, the difficulty in breathing and speaking due to cold, maybe probably congestion in the chest. But he stated that on his arrival at the DSS, that the DSS officials took him to their own medical center, and he has also been given some level of medical treatment at the DSS facility, and that he generally, that he's more, you know, comfortable, and they have shown more humanity to him at the DSS facility compared to where he was brought from.
Do you guys have the name of the military officer that gave the order for his arrest? Not speculative.
Okay,
facts.
so as not speculative, and we have not, because of course the military has not confirmed anything even from their statement. They only confirmed what we said, that he was in their custody. But the head of the CIC that we know, the Counterintelligence Command, is Brigadier General Advocacy. And we believe that in an egalitarian society, when people make comments and everything is pointed to a person, I think in all decency and in line of professional conduct, it is important that a person should put out a statement to either confirm or debunk this accusation and allegations. We do not know exactly who would have given the command, but we know, and we continue to mention the name of Brigadier General W.A. Advocacy as the head of the Counterintelligence Command that officers came from to pick up justice, and where he was held until when he was moved. In fact, his vehicle, as we are speaking, is still parked in the office of Brigadier General Advocacy in that unit of the CIC.
So just before I yield, the statement, part of the statement read, while the matter has been investigated for the breach of social media, many preliminary reports revealed that the soldiers discussed wide range of issues with Justice Chidebere will seem to be inciting soldiers to create discontent within the system. That's the allegation. An example was a chat bordering on subversion which Chidebere had with the soldiers. It's important to state that a situation where civilians cultivate vulnerable personnel towards acts of subversion has far-reaching implications on discipline and national security. Did you have a time to chat with him on this particular allegation?
He had nothing. Those are just ambiguous statements from the military. What do you define as subversion? You should put whatever it is out for Nigerians to know. What will be more subversive than taking terrorists and rehabilitating them with allegations of them even employed into the law enforcement of a country? So when we should be serious as a nation. If we want to handle insecurity in Nigeria, we know what to do. What is more subversive than paying ransom to terrorists while the military officers are being fed with allegations of a poor feeding? And then when you dismiss officers who complain, what is the morale you are building in their officers? So in Nigeria today, an average terrorist is even more motivated than an officer who is supposed to be fighting terrorism. So if the army and the military of a country is serious with the kind of challenges that we have, Nigerian terrorists are displaying TikTok videos of cash and ransom on social media. As we are speaking to you, kidnappers kidnap people, flog them and post on social media. Has the military been able to address all of those issues? Is it that is way lesser than whatever communication or chat that justice may be having with any person? And when you say subversion, what do you define as that? So I think that the military can do better. They are a very well respected institution, and they have a lot of challenge. We are the fourth most terrorized country in the world, Mr. Geoffrey. If a military of the fourth most terrorized country in the world can be pampering terrorists the way we are seeing the government doing and taking hold of civilians the way we are seeing doing, where are we headed? What exactly will be the probable outcome? I think Nigerians, we are in trouble, and as a country, we all should wake up and insist that our institutions should be reformed to carry out their jobs professionally, to protect both the officers and the country.
Well, the manner of arrest of Justice Chidebere is very concerning. And I believe the Administration of Criminal Justice Act does frown on illegal arrest and detention, and in fact provides for arraignment within 48 hours of any suspect being arrested in the first place for arraignment. And perhaps the army is one of the institutions that should be most informed about the laws. But I have had cause to look at the images put out by Justice Chidebere on the meals being served those who are at the front line defending Nigeria's territorial integrity, and it was shown just moments ago. It is really disheartening to see. If that is the case, if indeed this is what being served, our soldiers at the battlefield, I wonder what conversations you had with him on who contacted who first, because the statement put out by the military says that he is creating discontent within the rank and file of soldiers fighting. But another soldier may have slid into his DM and provided this confirmation that Justice also put out. And I read, he says, "I don't want to comment on that video you made about food given to soldiers that are in Maiduguri. All I have to say that is true. And I don't want them to check my profile and see I'm a military personnel. That's why I didn't comment. I said I should come to you directly. If you and others speak on this, maybe the government will improve. Thank you." And it goes on. So what is the nature of the conversation that you had about justice based on the statement, the explanation provided by the army on the reason for his arrest? Was it the officers that contacted Justice for help to put out, an advocacy on their plight?
So thank you very much, Ma. You see, Nigeria, may Nigerians help themselves. In this space we are, when you come out as maybe a social advocate and you are demanding for a better country, what happens is that when you talk about an issue, maybe when I talk about police or law enforcement brutality, for example, the boy that was shot, by an officer in Delta, a lot of persons run to your DMs. Nigeria has become such a country where people now have more faith in activists or social crusaders to help them get justice than the institutions. And that happens even with military officers. So imagine when it gets to the level where officers are the ones reaching out to you, demanding that you help them speak for their own rights. Let us even step away from just the case of the food, because that will be trying to microzone it into a very little, issue. What is the salary of the average rank and file Nigerian military officer? We have heard and seen videos of an officer in the Northeast complaining that his salary as an officer cannot pay his transport from Maiduguri, where he was, to his hometown in the South and back. That is the salary, monthly salary of an officer who is fighting terrorists in Nigeria. What is the salary of even a lieutenant colonel in Nigeria? What is the salary of a commissioner of police? If you do not engage in illegality and criminality, how well are their salaries and welfare able to sustain them? So it is not even just a question of the feeding. The statutory allowances and salaries available to them, what exactly is it able to solve? If you take out the money to buy a bag of rice from your salary as a low-level military officer, what will be left of it? Before we begin to talk about the food. So you can see from the officer's statement, a lot of persons reached out to him, including officers, corroborating the information he had put out, that we are going to send you pictures. Please, you people should talk about this, you people should talk about that. The simplest way the army would have gone is to come out and say, you people can also, because you are the ones who always say security is both civil and military to collaborate. Come and get journalists like yourself, look at what we do. This is the budget. This is why. Is it possible for us to investigate that there is even sabotage, that maybe what comes from the defense headquarters, the ration is not getting to them? It is an opportunity for you to even access yourself and help your own officers. Why resort to this kind of criminal, act of abducting a civilian without trace? What if nobody had spoken up? What if nobody knew exactly, had an idea? What if he had died in custody? Will they come out to confirm to us that he died in their custody? This cannot be accepted.
And absolutely, this cannot and will not be accepted. We could talk about other issues, politics. You had put up a post, I think some days ago, saying this this OK ticket must happen, and now it looks like OK is now becoming a reality gradually, but not in the ADC now, in the NDC. So I wonder if you have picked up your own membership card as well for the OK ticket under the NDC.
Mr. Kayode, I spent almost the entire day yesterday and the past few days, on this issue of justice. But yes, I put up a video after the opposition summit in Ibadan, where the opposition said they were going to put up a united candidate and they will do what the people want. And I asked Nigerians to comment and let us feel the pulse of the people on who they would want. And it was overwhelmingly Obi Kwankwaso. And in 2027, that is the way that I will be going. Because it is not just about, removing a government. There was a coalition in 2014 that brought the APC. And if a coalition could bring governments that could successively destroy a country and the institutions like this, we must be careful to know that it is not just in taking out a government, it is replacing it with better government. So whatever that the opposition leaders are going to do, they have moved to the NDC. It should all be to present to Nigerians a viable and credible alternative, to know that Nigerians are yearning for better leadership, for security, for protection, for jobs, for to feed themselves and for power. So that is where we are looking at, and to ensure that we get that kind of leadership in 2027.
Okay, that's okay. Pun intended there. But we have to thank you so much, Mr. Peter Aka, advocate for a new Nigeria, a supporter of the OK movement. I know that you said there's going to be a protest today, so we'll keep watch and see how things play out. But no Nigerian shall ever go through what Justice Crack has gone through and is going through. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so very much for having me.
And we must say that the military must come out to speak on this. So this is an invitation, right of reply for the military, the army specifically, that put out the statement to come speak to Nigerians. Accountability is key. Let us know what exactly played out. Because from what we're hearing, it doesn't look good at all. We'll take a moment now. When we return, we have more politics for you. Stay with us.